Let's show this to all the autistic people watching this podcast.
What the fuck?
Oh gosh.
Oh my God.
Well, next scene is the next scene.
Should be meeting Eddie Arcadian.
Yeah, it's meeting the white guy.
Yes.
And that
So-
that was where I was talking about like narcissism, because he is definitely on that spectrum.
Okay. So do you want to kind of get into that? Like, who is Eddie? What the fuck?
Yes.
Who's this man? This white man?
He's an intense, overly dramatic individual and has a high need for success, validation, and power.
Yep.
And it's almost like he knows that he doesn't have the artistic talent to be the forefront, to gain that success and power and stuff like that. He can only gain that through the artists that he manages, you know? And so if you're not hot anymore, then you're on the back burner because you're not providing him with that success or that power or that validation, right? So now he has this new hot thing, his girlfriend, who is a musical artist, that's what she's supposed to be, that he's trying to turn her into. And you see Rock, his kind of henchman, I guess, his assistant. I don't know what he necessarily is, but he's like, hey, you said that you were going to get me, you know, this success. And he's like, you lost, Rock. Like, I have no more use for you. Yeah, you suck. I have no more use for you. And so I just thought that was a good representation of like someone, like he's not even a person to Eddie, you know, he's a means for validation and success.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot, especially when it comes to just entertainment business. And we see it in athletics too. I mean, look at what's happening with Caitlin Clark right now. Hottest thing in college basketball. Hottest thing. And all of a sudden comes to the WNBA, starts losing. Then all of a sudden people are starting to backtrack a little bit. And then, I mean, we see it with male sports too. I mean, you could be the hottest thing out right now, like John Wall, for example. John Wall, good example of being like one of the hottest young stars ever. And then, you know, afterwards, after, you know, that kind of fizzles out, then, you know, he doesn't see that validation anymore. And he went through a lot of mental health crises, but that's also because of some family things as well that were happening too. And then, and luckily in the NBA, a lot of people are supported. But, you know, still work to be done a little bit on that. But yeah, I mean, I think we kind of always see this like, oh wow, yeah, they're gonna be the greatest thing ever. And then all of a sudden they make a mistake, they lose, and we take them off that pedestal and we just keep on moving, keep on going along. And these people were built up to be these amazing things, and they were hyped up to do that, have all these expectations, and then all of a sudden now, where does it go? Yeah, and that could really break you as a person. I mean,
so we'll do a little pivot here, because that's not technically where the movie's going, but that's a good point to bring up. So this is a narcissist using people. So these people would be like, I would feel like the parents, where they would be like, oh, my kid makes it to the pros, I made it to the pros. You know, as I told one of my boys, I said, you're your dad's Rolex watch. And he was like, holy shit, you're right. I said, yeah. That's why he never tells you to your face any of the good stuff. But when he's talking to everyone else, he's talking cash shit about you being the golden ticket. And he torments you, though, when you come back home. So you're the shiny watch. When you're doing good, you're awesome. You're on that pedestal, like Spencer said. And when you trash, fuck you. So I see a lot of parents abusing their kids like this narcissistic use. You'll see it a lot with promoters. If we're sticking to sports, Spence, right? So you're hot, you're not.
yeah.
I think the interesting thing, though, when we give it away from like negative narcissistic influences and we stick to just like culture, you know, it can destroy someone being like, okay, all these expectations that Spence said, you're freaking out, but you're awesome. Everyone's gassing you up, and then you struggle. What happens to you mental health wise when you struggle? Does that lead to tons of anxiety and the yips, we call it in athletics, the yips? You get the yips. You start messing up. You start overthinking now. Instead of reacting and playing the game that you love, now you're stressed out. Now you're depressed. And so you see all these athletes that really struggle. You see all these performers really struggle. because that, negative experience has now impacted you completely. Not a good example, but a good example. So we look at someone like Ronda Rousey, one of the best female athletes, fighters in the world ever. And then she gets her ass knocked out cold.
Mhm.
Then the anxiety set in, then the depression set in, but also she had a huge trauma. Everyone should go watch the documentary that's on Netflix about Ronda Rousey. She's a magnificent human. There's stuff in there with not being able to have a child and some other really sad stuff about birth. Her father passed away. It's just a lot of trauma. Her whole story is nothing but trauma. So you can see where you get gassed up and then it gets taken from out of you. Now everyone says you're shit. I think that could destroy someone. As Spencer was saying, and if it's a narcissist that's controlling the strings, they're going to make sure you know your shit. Just like Rocky in this thing. Now, get away from me, you loser. I think of like bad agents. I'm going to do another pivot, and you two do not have to talk about this. But it reminds me a lot of white folks in the day using black artists. And so they're the agents. I'm not going to say what population was, but they were these agents. And they're getting all this money and they're just stealing all this stuff from black folk. That's what it made me think of. He's this talent agent just stealing everything, signing their rights away. It's these big media conglomerates. So usually white-bodied individuals. And then a lot of these black artists, musicians, actors, they ended up with nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it's super sad. And we wonder, like, how come all these individuals didn't have, like, maintain their wealth? Because they're drug addicts or they're blowing it on this or that. Like, no, they actually got all their royalties stripped.
Yeah. That's still a big topic today. It's still happening. A lot of rights are still not given to people who make all these like millions and millions of dollars to people, and they actually change cultures, change how we view different things, and yet they're still not given enough money because they signed it away because you have an opportunity to get out to where you're from. To elevate yourself, like you're saying. And you're going to do that. You're going to do that. You're going to sign away your rights because you want to get to a better place than where you are. It happens. And, I wish there was a little bit more representation when it comes to that. And I wish we would stop and not do these things and maybe be a little bit more independent. But at the same time, it's hard to do because it's such a huge corporation that's running everything. It's like, how can you beat that?
How?
You can't.
How can you fight against it? You got like maybe a couple. I know Logic wasn't hired under any agency, wasn't he, for a while? He didn't have no agency.
He was signed to a label for a long time, Def Jam.
And then he got away.
And now he's independent.
There was another dude that was Macklemore. He didn't have someone for a long, long time. I don't think he ever had anyone. So there are very few individuals that can make it. And then also, let's be real, little trigger warning, but you got a lot of this Diddy stuff where the only way for you to get into industries is to sell everything. What Cat Williams was talking about, you had to give up many things, physically, emotionally.
And actually, he's a great example of somebody who did it himself, and he made sure he is not signing over anything. So shout out to Cat Williams because he's doing it independently and he's still doing it to this day. So
interesting thing. I want to talk about the race of it all. Be like, they just, the dumb people. I'm like, so you mean tell me all these black folks that are creative geniuses was just dumb? Like, no, they were getting taken advantage of.
Right. Exactly.
And so I think about this young lady. So I'll introduce the next scene because we're going to get back to the one that you wanted, the restaurant, but I think we're going to go into the one that I showed. So back to Dr. Funny. So I showed the clip that this white woman, she's like, I don't want you to do all these horrible things. I don't want you to hurt anyone or kill anyone. She's like, he's like, who? No, they don't. No one fucks with me. No one embarrasses me. Narcissistic rage. And, he starts belittling her. You wouldn't be nothing, no one without me. That's what narcissists do. They take everything, especially in relationships. No one wants you. You're ugly. You're stupid. All you'll ever get is me. We did a podcast, me, Spencer, and Vicky on Renfield. What's that actor? Nicolas Cage, right? And he does that whole scene with his protege. And so this very good narcissistic moment there where he shits all over. Very rarely do you get the person to speak up. So she's been enabling a lot of behaviors. And now she's like, I'm sick of you. Goes at her even harder. You're worthless. You're stupid. You're a dental hygienist from the projects or whatever. And then she dogs his ass off. So calls him some like little small man midget. I'm like, okay.
Misguided midget asshole.
Mid-guy and mid-asshole.
That's what she called.
From the same town. So it's like, shut the fuck up. Who are you faking out? You ain't nobody.
Right. And you're also using me to get your success.
Because he said you just be using your tits. But she's like,
Right.
You're using my tits.
Exactly.
Which is a really nice pivot. And I was thinking about this black exploitation. She's a white woman, but I'm thinking about it in the movie in general. So when you see something like that, again, another good representation of this dynamics with a narcissist and someone trying to get from under that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's tough because I do have clients that have been in that type of position, and to work with them to kind of recognize their own worth. Because sometimes when people do stuff like that to you, especially if it's someone that you care and you feel like you respect, their words are going to have weight to it. So you're going to start to internalize those things to believe that they're true. And this doesn't just go for a romantic relationship. This also goes for parent and child, or even siblings, or even friends. Really, anyone that you hold close to you that you respect, that has this type of kind of banter towards you, it could breed an insecurity within you. And for her, Angie is her name in the movie. It didn't do that. It seemed like she always was able to kind of hold true to who she was as a person. She knew that she was doing this for entertainment. She wasn't in it for success. She was just trying to have fun. And when she realized that she was being used, she was like, oh no, forget that. Like, I'm not standing for this. Like, you don't respect me and you don't love me.
Hey, thanks for watching this video. Check out the full episode on our channel and anywhere you find podcasts. Also, remember to like and subscribe. Whoop whoop.